First things first, we've got the dollar. So yeah, we're looking a bit bearish this morning. I would say that as a whole, we are still quite flat. Price is still rejecting support, price is still rejecting resistance. But it looks like we potentially could be getting a breakout to the downside, which of course hinting at some USD weakness, which is what we were actually talking about on Friday. Because looking at the weekly chart, we're seeing a lot of wicks to the upside, and that's a strong sign to tell us that we're kind of failing to push higher. Price is trying to push higher, but it's failing to do so. And to me, it looks like price can probably make a move lower. And if you take into consideration the support level, which of course was previously support back over here, taking that as resistance, you can see wicks continuously into that level. So it shows me that resistance is holding really well. Price has tried to rally through, of course hasn't worked out too well. So the path of least resistance to me would be a swing to the downside. Price typically moves in the path of least resistance. I would expect that to be lower. And of course, you got the lows here, which of course just continues the trend which we've seen throughout the year. That's really what I'm expecting now for the dollar. And of course, we're seeing some early signs of that this week, with price looking like it's trying to break out of that range in the 4-hour chart. I said if I want to be bearish this week with the dollar, I do want to see price well and truly clear support here. Then we can talk about some pullbacks, perhaps a retest of that same zone. Then yeah, I'm expecting us to eventually go and take out these lows, resting around 96.390. So I can see a lot more downside for the USD. We're hinting at that. I wouldn't say the breakout is well and truly here. Of course, it looks like price is closing below, but it's only by a small margin. We're very prone to fake outs. You could argue we did it over there, and you can see what happened shortly afterwards. So I would like to see a more convincing break to the downside. And of course, if price does close above next candle, well, we're back at square one. So I need to see a bit more convincing momentum, a bit more distance between price and that level that we're breaking through supposedly. And if that is the case, the shorts are very much on. Even taking shorts in the breakout is not such a bad idea, but I think in this instance, I'd rather look for some pullbacks. And yeah, a push to the lows will be my take. So it looks like we're seeing some dollar weakness. Potentially could see a lot more of it. And of course, euro is showing similar signs as well. Of course, with a move to the upside. And euro dollar is hinting at potentially breaking to the upside. But again, still stuck at resistance. So not going to read too much into that, because we could very much reject this area and come straight back down. Of course, if USD is going to break lower, then you would expect euro dollar to break higher, but we'll wait for things to be confirmed yet. But let's say if we do break to the upside, then of course a push back to the high here would very much be the plan. So looking for the breakout, some pullbacks, hopefully a retest of this area. Really nice resistance will be turned support. Great place to be looking for a breaking retest opportunity, and targets back at high. So potentially we could be looking at that. Of course, let's not rule out the possibility of price rejecting this area very well and seeing a push down. It is still relatively 50-50 here. So I wouldn't be looking to buy any breakouts just yet. Need a bit more convincing price action to really say, okay, we're broken out. Let's look for opportunities now. If we see a strong rejection, a strong 4-hour bearish engulfing candle, that's a strong rejection within itself. We might be in for a move lower. So still need a bit more information, but we'll keep an eye on that. We're definitely at a critical area, just like we were last week. Price was back at support. It was 50-50. Is price going to break through or respect it? Of course, in hindsight, we can see price did the latter, but now approaching resistance again. Let's see what the next move will be. Pound USD in a similar light as well, kind of just very flat between key support, key resistance. So I'm treating it in the same way I'm treating euro dollar, which is just waiting for price to make its move, and then direction should be a lot clearer in terms of where the next target will be. Again, I'm either looking at push back to highs or a push back to lows. Again, if USD is going to be weak, that should hint at a push back to highs for pound. But in terms of actually finding an opportunity to trade that, again, I need to see price clear resistance at 1.358. If we break above the highs there, this looks like a big inverse head and shoulder pattern. There's your left, there's your head, and of course there'll be your right shoulder, and that will be your neckline. So a break of that really opens the door to some longs, where the breakouts, pullback opportunities to retest the zone, and then you're looking at swing back to highs, and that's about 200 pip range as well. So don't even need to take advantage of the whole move. as well can just take a bunch of a small piece of the pie. But I'm liking what I'm seeing with pound. Not so much in terms of the current price action. It's really flat. I would suggest it's difficult to find good opportunities within this area. But let's say if momentum does pick up and we see a breakout, USD sees some strength, then I think we could be onto something with some nice opportunities above this level and targeting back more or less from around 1.38. So yeah, pound USD keeping an eye, but I won't be added to my watch list until I see again either a price break to the upside or to the downside. Let's not rule that out completely as well. Yeah, price could take a tumble, and of course if you do break the low here, then I'll be speaking about push here, which is roughly 200 pips as well, so similar ranges to work with. But in there, very noisy, don't have much clarity with price. Dollar CAD is an interesting one. I'm pretty bearish on dollar CAD. We rejected a very key level on the higher time frame. Looking at this level here on the weekly chart, resistance once, twice, a third time, a fourth time, could argue a fifth time as well now. And if price is going to respect that and stay below, we could be in for a really big tumble for dollar CAD, potentially back to these lows, 1.33, 1.32. Again, a bit more longer term bias, but it makes sense based on where we're trading, based on how we're trading as well. At least for the upcoming few weeks, I do think we can see a push into the lows here. Look at the rejection there. Really nice wick to the upside, or 3 wicks there. Strong close this last week. I do think momentum can spill over. So at least looking for a push back to where we came from. As I drop to the 4-hour chart, the plan is pretty simple. We're starting to form some nice bearish structure now. Push, pull back, push. Looking for the next pullback for again the next push. There's your supply zone, your consolidation, waiting for a break and retest of that zone, and hopefully we can see some more sellers enter the market and see some more selling pressure take this lower. At least a push into this area. I think that makes sense for the week anyway. Of course, it might take 2, 3, 4 weeks for us to actually get back to these lows, but at least for this week, if you do see a pullback, a push is pretty reasonable. You're not expecting too much from the market. So yeah, dollar CAD is definitely on the watch list for myself. Looking at pullbacks, not so interested in the buys, but looking for pullbacks to then short dollar CAD. Hopefully for the remainder of the week and probably for the remainder of a few weeks potentially. And as for Aussie dollar, really flat, approaching resistance. So again, could be an interesting place for a short. I do think Aussie dollar can actually see more upside because I'm looking at price on the higher time frames in the weekly chart in particular. I'm seeing a lot of wicks here. Price is trying to head lower. It's been super corrective on the way up. It's tried to break lower, but failing to do so. Spilling over a few wicks to the downside, really kind of confirming support is doing its job there. And we've seen some strength in the past weekly candle, which just closed. Not humongous strength. I would still argue we're trapped within the range. But it does look like prices failed to go lower. So again, path of least resistance. That should take us to the upside as well. Mic is not connected. Oh no. Oh, okay, it's connected to the wrong mic. Okay, that should be better. Actually, is it better? Yeah, I think I'm connected to the right one. Apologies for that, people. Apologies. I think it was connected to my my desktop computer, not the actual mic in front of me. But I think I've fixed it. Yeah, just let me know if this sounds better. Okay, cheers. Thank you, Sis Integrated. Apologies for that, people. I hope the mic wasn't too horrible. I'm glad I had a look at the chat there because I would have continued for a while. But yeah, anyway, so back to the analysis. Apologies for the audio. But yeah, Aussie dollar giving me an impression that we are failing to head lower. So I'm looking at support forming and that we could see a lot more upside here. And probably a push back into resistance, which should take us back to the highs around 0.66. So I'm hinting at price pushing higher longer term. But in the short term, yeah, in the short term, I do think there could be some selling opportunities back at the high. I do think price can find resistance here and push lower, especially with how corrective we are looking back into that area. So I do think we can see a bit of a dive. I just wouldn't bank on such a big one. Maybe a push back towards this area. Not too unreasonable. Like I said, I do think we are likely to push back to highs eventually. Again, how we do that, I have no idea. Price may break straight through. Price might want to push to the downside first. It may want to come back and retest lows here. It will depend on the USD as well. But it's a significant level of resistance, especially with how price is moving. I do think we can see a reaction. Of course, wait for entry confirmations to back that up. But if you are looking to short, this is a place for it. If not, then of course, the highs over there would be the next best. So yeah, Aussie dollar looking at a slight dip, but I do think we will see more upside in the long term. New Zealand dollar still operating within its channel, so still very corrective as a whole. The way I see it, we've been descending here. We've got the highs of the channel relatively proportional over here, and looks like price to me is just approaching the up end of the channel. So in terms of New Zealand dollar, it really is just what we do at this area. Do we break out? Do we respect it? It's 50-50. I like this area because despite the move, despite the bigger, whatever price is going to do, if we are going to take some breakouts and look for some pullbacks, that should give us a pretty big move to the upside. And likewise, if we do respect it and push back down and form another lower high, we should be looking at decent moves in either direction. So in terms of risk reward, in terms of opportunity, regardless of what price does, I do think there could be something there to really keep an eye on. But yeah, we're approaching an area of supply. We're approaching the top end of the channel. Let's see how price reacts here. Maybe we do take a dive. I think for now, my initial impressions is that we are quite corrective and we are looking quite flat and quite slow. So I think we could probably see some resistance in this area. But wait for price to well and truly react to that area before really looking for some entries. But I would suggest keep an eye. And then yeah, gold and silver really setting the tone for the week there. A lot of momentum. Of course, we had some really aggressive momentum on Friday. Had a slight pause as we opened for the week. And then again, overnight, another strong push to the upside, well and truly breaking through resistance. So things are now interesting with gold. Before they weren't interesting, now they are. And yeah, of course, we all know that gold long term is very much in a bullish trend. We have been very flat for the past few months. Price has been in a bit of a sideways phase. And now potentially price is showing its hand in terms of where it wants to go. So as long as we don't come crashing back down and breaking back underneath 34.30, I would expect to see price pull back and continue back to highs. You've got the all-time highs here at 3,500. We haven't done that yet. I still think that's likely to go. So especially from an intraday point of view, I think that's where you're going to find some nice opportunities, especially for risk to rewards. If I drop like the hourly chart, nice consolidation here, strong area of demand, strong push to the upside. I would suggest a pullback into that area. Could be a smart place for a buy to take you back to your all-time highs at 3,500. So yeah, gold, really bullish. Again, just focusing on the buys. The only way I would stand back is if we come crashing back down. Yeah, if we see momentum take us back underneath the level, then that would be a sign of worry. But at the moment, yeah, momentum's looking strong. I would just be looking to follow that. And likewise with silver as well. Really impressed momentum. Arguably even a stronger breakout than gold. Well and truly broke the highs. This was actually the bonus pair for this week on the weekly analysis. If you haven't checked it out, it's the most recent video on the channel. But I spoke about a retest of this structure. Again, nice kind of area of demand. You can probably focus a bit more on this area in particular. Of course, lines up with the resistance price created. So I said if we could see a pullback here, I think that'll be a smart place for a buy. It still is a very smart place for a buy. It's just now we're asking for a pretty big pullback now for us to get all the way back there. I think shifting the attention more so to this area now makes a bit more sense, especially taking into consideration the momentum. It's asking a lot for us to retrace there. It could happen, so keep an eye. But I think this is definitely be your first area of focus. If that fails, then we can talk a bit more about this 39 level. But 39. But 39.8 would be the area of interest. But yeah, as for silver, still very much in the bullish trend, committing to the upside. I think buys is the best bet for this one, just following momentum, following the trend. And likewise with gold as well, with the breakout we've had. As long as you don't break back in, gold looks like a really nice buy opportunity. So yeah, that's kind of the plan with gold and silver at the moment.